So on my post yesterday about the victory rally on January 19th, a lot of people were commenting that it reminded them of something, of history, maybe having echoes repeating itself, and all these little special rallies that have like Stephen Miller's like wishes he was born in the early 1900s so he could have been a propagandist for this guy. Like it's just feeling the same with this rally. Like anytime I read into an event that happened in 1930s Germany, it's like, oh, it's a playbook for them. Like they really are like, that sounds really fun. Let's do that. I mean, just in general, that party loved a rally. They loved a rally to spread their propaganda. They like to intimidate and be like, look at our big crowds. Everybody loves us. And they did it to unify the population, which his rallies definitely do not do that. But in his dream world, they would. And he'd have people goose marching across the fields in parades for him. Lord y'all. So in Germany, they have a president, and then the president appoints a chancellor, and they are in charge of the Reichstag, which is their parliament. In the 1932 elections, his party won the most votes, but they did not have the majority. So they weren't the majority party, but they had the largest coalition. So we have the president, which is Hindenburg. He appoints the chancellor. So he appoints this guy against his better judgment because he thought he was radical. But listen to why he appointed him. There was political instability. There was economic crisis happening. There was pressure from conservative elites. After his appointment, the Papin, who was one of the elites that wanted him, literally said, "We have hired him." That sounds familiar. Fear of communism. They have a communist party, the KPD, which is the Democratic Party, and they were rising in control. They were gaining ground. So there was like the fear of communism. Like this is like there's no original anything anymore. And electoral success. Like so they won so much of the vote that they can't be ignored. His political force can't be ignored. So we have January 30th, he's appointed. February 27th of 1933, we have the Reichstag fire. So it's like the Capitol burning being set on fire, the Capitol building. So the Reichstag is set on fire. It's at 9:00 at night. And apparently they all showed up like right after to like check out this fire. But they found a guy wandering around disoriented and shirtless. He's a bricklayer, and he gets blamed for the whole thing. But immediately upon arriving on the scene, they claim that the fire was started by a communist uprising. Like immediately. It sounds familiar. Like truths yesterday about, oh, it's a, illegal immigrant before they even know any information. So they blame it on a communist uprising. They get the fear of everybody saying this is an uprising. We need to squash this. And they put the Reichstag fire decree on February 20th. So the next day, they put a decree in place. And it's for the protection of the people and the state. The decree suspended civil liberties, including freedom of speech and press, freedom of assembly, and protection from warrantless searches and arrests. So basically, they suspended the Constitution. That would be like people suspending our Constitution. And it allowed them to detain political opponents without trial. Like, this is a fever dream. This is like a happy dream for Stephen Miller. Like, he would love to be able to do this. This is like what they always claim as like, oh, we're going to do martial law. So then following that, there was mass arrests. Communist Party of Germany, mass arrests. They decimated the left wing. They got rid of their opposition. They also, by getting rid of their opposition party, everyone that was left was conservative leaning or willing to go along with his party, and they passed the Enabling Act of 1933, which basically consolidated power under him. And okay, so after the fire, they were using the Kroll Opera House as the Reichstag building, and they had a vote for the passage of the Enabling Act, which I'll tell you about that in a second. But the only people that opposed it were the remaining members of the Social Democratic Party, so it was 444 to 94. They had the SS and the SA surrounding the building, like intimidating. Like they had like guns and people were arrested, and a lot of the parties of the Communist Party were like hiding or fear of being arrested. And interesting that they promised to support the Catholic Center Party because Hitler promised to respect the rights of the church. Like he got the church involved to help like shore up the vote. That sounds familiar. So what the Enabling Act let him and his party do is transfer legislative power. The act allowed him and his cabinet to enact laws without the involvement of the Reichstag. These laws could deviate from the Constitution. They had to do whatever they wanted. Bypass the president and the Reichstag. New laws could be passed directly by the cabinet, bypassing both President Hindenburg and the parliamentary approval. And it was supposed to only last 4 years, but was repeatedly renewed until the fall in 1945. So then President Hindenburg, like, what timing, bro? He dies of lung cancer. And so bro takes power of presidency of himself. So he is now dictator. And he's already removed the powers of the Reichstag. He's already given all of the power to himself and his cabinet. And there's no opposition anymore because he's gotten rid of it. And he has created dictatorship for himself. Wouldn't he really, like, bro wishes, like, Orange Boy wishes he could do this. This is like what he wishes he can act out. But he's such a hot mess that, like, oh, also, after Hindenburg died and he became the FUHRER, I don't think I can say that on here, he proclaimed himself, you know, the leader of everything, and got rid of, that basically ended the Weimar Republic, which is what Germany was at that point. It was called the Weimar Republic. That was their government. And now it was the schmutzes. And they switched the military, giving an oath of allegiance to him personally and no longer to the country or the government or the Constitution. There are no originals anymore. Nothing is original anymore. So, yeah, it does seem similar to that. If there are some, just be aware of things that might happen around the Capitol that might initiate something like the Enabling Act, because this all sounds so familiar. Like, it's like literally they use it as a playbook, like blaming your opposition without any information, using that to consolidate power, using that to put fear in people and take away their rights more and more and more. Yeah. So yeah, it does sound right out of his playbook. It's wild. Be on the lookout. Be alert.